I think a lot of people can feel it right now. It feels like something is off. And I don't just mean disease, I mean life. People today are exhausted all the time. Sleep can be terrible. Their digestion is wrecked. They're anxious. They're inflamed, overweight, overstimulated, under-recovered. They're living on caffeine during the day and melatonin at night. And somehow we've just normalized. But I don't think that's true. And over the last 3 decades in practice, I've become increasingly convinced of something. That a huge percentage of what we call normal aging is actually the predictable consequence of living in an environment that the human body was never designed for. And the craziest part is that most people don't realize that the body starts whispering, telling you these things long before it starts screaming that there's a problem. That's really what this podcast today is about. It's learning how to hear the subtle cues from your body. My name is Dr. David Quartell. I'm a chiropractor, and I've been in private practice since the 1990s. I wrote a book called The Body User Manual, and over that time, all of my experience evolved into something much larger that eventually became the Quartell. And the first one happened when I was about 5 years old. I remember we were in the pediatrician's office. My brother had an ear infection, and you go to the doctor when there's an ear infection. And I could remember wanting pills for myself. I was upset that I didn't get pills, and my mom said something that hit me really strange. Even as a kid, I was like, I don't get it. She said, no, you can't take those pills because medicine makes sick people better, but it makes healthy people sick. Now, obviously, she was talking about side effects and risk benefit and things that adults understand, but I didn't. I was a kid. I was like, why are we talking about health in terms of sickness? Only after something goes wrong. I wanted to be healthier too. I wanted the pills. Why did we have to wait for the body to break before we started paying attention to what it needed? That question definitely with me. Then a couple of years later, my grandfather, only 56 years old, my age today, he dropped dead of a heart attack. Nobody explained it. Nobody talked about it. Even today, adults stop talking when kids are around about death because they think they're protecting children. But kids know when something important is happening. And I remember being aware at that point that something very different was happening. And I started fearing death. And it was a big deal. I started paying attention, listening, reading things. I wanted to understand why people got sick and died because it was scary. And the more that I looked, the more it was confusing. One said fat was bad, and then sugar was bad, and then somebody said fat was good and sugar wasn't good, and experts blamed stress, and then another said genetics, and everybody sounded so certain, but they kept contradicting themselves. And I was a kid, and I was thinking, there's got to be a truth somewhere here, eggs are good, eggs are bad. Well, what is it? I didn't want something that was trendy, not political. I didn't want industry-driven. I just wanted the truth. What was true? Eventually, fortunately, that led to pain, low back pain, and that's you. That's our bread and butter. It's a big part of it. But what grabbed me at the time was the philosophy that the body is a self-healing organism. And even the chiropractic definition of health resonated with me, that health is a state of optimal physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Those concepts changed my life. Because suddenly health wasn't just not dying. It wasn't, your labs are normal. It wasn't, nothing catastrophic hasn't happened yet. Your feet didn't fall off, so we don't have to worry. Health instead became something active, something that was built, something that was cultivated over time. And that completely changed the way I viewed the human body. Not as a machine that inevitably breaks down, but as a system that's constantly trying to heal, to adapt, survive, thrive, peak performance. That if you give it the right environment, the idea, the foundation of everything comes after that, after you give it what it needs. And then the biggest turning point, the thing that transformed this from just intellectual curiosity into real urgency was my daughter, Sarah. In 2009, she was born with Rett syndrome. And if you don't know what that is, Rett syndrome is a devastating neurological condition. Kids who are born with are normal in the beginning, and then they begin to lose the ability. They can't talk anymore. They can't move. They can't walk. They can't use their hands. And it changes their entire trajectory of life and your family's life. And when Sarah was born, a decade into practice for me, everything changed. All of our family priorities changed. Perspective changed. Time changed. Everything changed because suddenly health wasn't a theory anymore. It was deeply personal. And I remember making a decision around that same time that I don't mean like it was a motivational Instagram, like rah rah. It was a real big decision. I decided that at that time I was going to do everything I could possibly do to stay alive, active, healthy, capable, and functional for as long as possible. Not for me, but to take care of Sarah, our daughter, so that I'd be able to show up and do whatever that she needed for the rest of her life. And over time, I noticed something even in my practice when I was working with patients as I began to look at these for myself. Patients generally weren't showing up with an isolated problem. They were showing up with very specific patterns. Patterns of stress, sleep patterns, inflammation patterns, metabolic patterns, nervous system patterns. I'd have someone coming in for low back pain, and back pain was a big deal, but I'd start looking a little bit deeper and find out that, they were only sleeping for 5 hours a night. They were eating ultra-processed food. They weren't exercising, no activity. They had a high-stress life, terrible recovery, blood sugar dysregulation, caffeine all day, scrolling the phone midnight. And then I was realizing, the pain isn't random. They were building it. They were constructing a body to make pain because the body was adapting to an environment that was overwhelming the ability to compensate. And once I saw these patterns, I couldn't unsee it. Over and over and over again, they were coming in. Different systems, different problems, different symptoms, but all the same patterns. And eventually, the question became what if we could measure those patterns before disease shows up? Not wait until someone is a diabetic or hypertensive, exhausted, sciatica, neck pain, migraines. What if we could detect dysfunction much earlier? And that question changed my entire way that I practice. Because most people don't go from healthy to sick overnight. The body tells you, it gives you a little whispers first. There might be a little bit of bad sleep and then brain fog and the gut starts changing and energy and mood and anxiety and weight, loss of resilience, inflammation, and before you know it, the signals are telling you what's going to happen in the years to come. Most people are told, nah, you're fine, not a big deal, take a pill. And technically they are because there's no disease, but when we look at the function and the health, they're not good. And by vitality standards, they're crashing, not by human disease, but by vitality, by being a human. And over time, that realization led us to build something bigger, a full system, a way of scoring dysfunction across multiple systems simultaneously. How do we look at stress, resilience, lifestyle behaviors, symptoms, metabolic health, recovery patterns, functional lab interpretation, movement, not to diagnose disease, but to detect dysfunction well before it becomes disease. That became the mission. And for a long time after Sarah passed away, I kept asking myself, what do I do with everything that this experience taught me? How can I use it to help other people? Maybe help someone stay alive longer, move better longer, stay present longer, happier, avoid suffering that they never needed to experience in the first place. Maybe help someone show up more fully for the people they love or doing things that they love. So if you've listened this far, and you can understand that's why this exists. Not because I wanted to build a brand, but because I wanted to build something useful, something real world, something that helps people understand that their body isn't betraying them. It's communicating. It's telling you, wake up. And most people are never taught to listen to that language. But once you understand the environment and you start understanding why people start to feel terrible all the time, you understand it's a body screaming like, I need help. And once you understand that message is coming through, the use of the Quartell Protocol makes a whole lot of sense. Because honestly, thanks for spending this time with me. And remember, your body is not broken, it's adaptive. The question is, what has it been adapting to? Right? That's the question. I'll see you soon. Thanks once again.